Absolutely.
So last week, I was watching America's Got Talent.
Yep.
Me and my husband.
Show.
Just a little show. And I saw this young man by the name of Cody Lee. Now, he's autistic and blind. And so you're like, okay, what kind of talent is he going to perform? What is he going to do? He comes out on stage with his mom.
Right. A little bit skeptical at first.
A little.
Right?
Take a look at this.
But when my life is over and I'm singing a song to you. Yes! Please come.
Every time I see it, I get goosebumps.
I'm standing on my feet. I'm standing on my
again.
feet right now.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
It's amazing.
So then later on, Gabrielle Union, one of the new judges,
Yes.
hits her golden buzzer.
Boom.
He is fast forward all the way to
Right to the
finals. Wow. Now you found an interesting stat.
Interesting stat. So he's one of 25 in the world that has this
25
very
in the world.
Yes, I mean he's certainly a prodigy.
Yeah.
Very unique ability where he's got audio photographic memory. So he hears something once and he can play it exactly as he's heard it, which is an amazing gift to have. And you can imagine how much that comes into play because of the fact that he's blind, right? And he can't read music, so he's got to be able to hear it and interpret it. So just amazing, you know, to be one of 25 in the world with this special ability. So just
You have to go onto YouTube and watch this full clip because when you hear Cody speak, he has a very high-pitched sounding voice. And, and because he's autistic, you know, there are challenges there, and his mom ushers him out. And when he started singing, I mean, everybody was floored.
everybody's jaw was just like on the floor.
Because his register is so low and rich and just very different.
The range that he has and the vocal agility, just amazing.
Oh,
so
Cody Lee, an amazing
Go for it, Cody. We're
miracle
cheering
of
for you.
God.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a great show
We
in store.
sure do. Well, our guest today dabbled with Ouija boards and seances, struggled with lies, depression, and abuse. She's going to share what she learned from those experiences.
And Bible commentator Danielle Strickland gives us the best gift we could possibly imagine. I'm always in for a good gift.
I'm always open for a gift.
Yeah.
But first, let's head over to Moira with her guest.
Do you know that genealogy is now the second most popular hobby after gardening? Ancestry websites are the craze. 2017 was the year DNA testing blew up. Many are making happy discoveries, but some families are blowing up as a result of their findings. This wasn't the first earthquake in Darlene Martin's life journey. It's a joy to have her here from Leamington, Ontario, the tomato capital of Canada.
Yes, absolutely.
Learn something every day. Darlene, it was a professor's challenge. You were in a course on family violence, and he said you need to do some work.
Basically what he said was you cannot complete this course unless you deal with your own childhood issues. If you have issues in your childhood, deal with those first before you can help people. And as a consequence, I knew that I had to deal with that little girl inside of me who had been sexually abused by her father before I could move ahead and finish the work I needed to do in my education.
Wow. It wasn't immediately clear, and I'm sure we have many people watching who'll identify with just flashbacks, impressions that took you on that part of the journey.
Absolutely. I was 38 years old at the time when I think enjoying my own children and realizing how different their lives were from what mine had been when I was 15, and just falling into a very deep depression, realizing that I needed to address those issues and those pains from my childhood.
You had a terrible mantra that just played over and over in your mind. What was the lie that you had come to believe?
As far back as I could remember, being 6 years old, hiding under our family front porch, family home front porch, it was that nobody loves me, everybody hates me.
Now, full disclosure, the suicidal thoughts and depression that really began to take over. You were involved in the occult. You would have seances with your friends, and you did open a door to the father of lies in a very real way.
Absolutely. When I was 15, I used to invite my friends over. We would have seances. We would fool around with Ouija boards. I think at the time we thought it was just pretty innocent stuff.
Party games.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think later, as this depression worsened and I started to have thoughts about suicide, those two things began to get tied together. Mm-hmm.
The encouraging thing is that very early you had an encounter with Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. 8 years of age. My parents didn't go to church, but my mom sent us to Sunday school, and it was there that I heard my Sunday school teacher tell me how much Jesus Christ loved me, enough to die for me, forgive me for my sins. And I remember going home that night and just asking him into my heart and asking him to make me as white as snow.
When your dad died, you read a victim impact statement over his grave. Mm-hmm. Expressing to the man who had sexually abused you, your father, of what it had meant in your life. How meaningful was that, Darlene?
That was incredibly meaningful because it gave me that place to be able to get rid of those last bits of anger, that intense emotion that was inside of me, to be able to really put on him that what he did to me was wrong, and that I wanted nothing more to do with that.
Well, we have to find out how you climbed out of this darkness, and it's not the end of very shocking things. 30 years after Darlene's parents died, another shocking truth about your history and your identity. Mm-hmm. Wait for it. We'll be right back.
Still to come on 100 Huntley Street.
At the end of that journey, I discovered a brother. He and I shared the same mother. I discovered that my biological mother was really who I thought to be my aunt.
Being a part of the prayer ministry, many times somebody will call us in the middle of the night and they will say, I'm watching a particular program, and the presenter just said something that really touched me, and it's as if he knows what I'm going through, and it's as if he was talking directly to me. And I'm calling, and they said we can call this number for prayers, and we said yes, absolutely, and we're happy that you called us, and we're very delighted to be able to share a word with you and to let you know that the Lord is with you, and it doesn't matter what you're going through, but he's always there. So that's always a powerful thing.
Once I start on board, all we need to do is to pray beforehand and ask God for his blessing, his guidance, and then you take the calls. And each call is so different, but each call is a blessing that you help people with the issues and bring them to Christ.
Darlene Martins is a loving mother of 3. She's been happily married to her husband Jake for over 40 years. They have 6 grandchildren. Darlene has a Master of Social Work degree from the University of Windsor, and she's helping hurting people as a clinical social worker and therapist. She's also a Stephen minister, active in her church. All of this was made possible because of amazing grace, abounding love. Darlene, in your memoir of freedom from depression, lies, and abuse, you write, "For years, whenever I felt low, I reached out my hand and asked, 'Do you love me, Jesus?'" Mm-hmm. He walked you through layers of depression and pain, and at 57, you found out who you really are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. About 6 months after my father passed away, I was told that the lady who raised me was not my biological mother.
Oh, it's like, what more? Mm-hmm. What more could a life handle?
Mm-hmm. Well, I went on a journey to try and sort that out. Of course, there's too many layers to explain today. But at the end of that journey, I discovered a brother. He and I shared the same mother. I discovered that my biological mother was really who I thought to be my aunt. And the reason that she couldn't have raised me was because she'd been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, really struggled throughout her adult years, and so I was raised by my aunt and my biological father.
And for periods of time in and out, David, the brother you didn't know you had, half-brother, was in your home.
Yes, they would come and visit. When my mother Victoria would go off the rails.
Your birth mother,
my birth
Victoria.
mother, yep. When she would go off the rails with her mental health, David would often stay with us. Sometimes just for a couple of days, but sometimes for months at a time.
To read about this, I mean, it should be a miniseries or a movie. Because there's little mysterious things. There's a photo here. There's a comment here. The mother who raised you said, "I can't save any more of Victoria's children." Little things that just started to add up. First, to unsettle you. What did it mean to find out that you had this close relative so late in life?
It was actually quite wonderful. I mean, initially it was quite a shock, but David and I had actually been very close as children. We really connected. We got along very well. We played together, and so then to find out that if I could have had any brother, it was wonderful that it was David. And of course, along with that came his wife and his children, and yeah, it's pretty great.
More family.
More family.
Real family. You made the most of the time. You counted the days. It's about 10 months you and David and his family had together before he died of cancer.
Yes.
April 3rd, 2014.
Almost 5 years.
It's very sweet to read about.
And that was pretty devastating for me. You know, to lose him after such a short period of time, and yet being so blessed that God gave us that 10 months together, and that we really did reconnect during that period of time.
Well, clearly the enemy wasn't finished targeting you and trying to bring you down. You had a new lie that just seemed to come over you like a cloud. No one celebrated my birth.
Yes.
This came with the Ancestry.com revelation. Just the mix-up in where you belonged and whose you were, that became a very major cloud for you.
Absolutely. David and I had proven our reconnection as siblings because of DNA testing. But then afterwards, when I was anticipating the birth of our 6th grandchild, that thought did come. You know, nobody celebrated when I was born, so...
And then you were given away.
And then I was easily discarded. But you know, I have to tell you that God just swooped in, and He did what He does best. You know, the Bible says that God is love, and because He is love, it's the essence and nature of His character. He can't help but love us. And so He gave me one verse that I'd like to share today. 1 John 3, verse 1. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And that is what we are, and that is what I am. And so it almost felt a little bit like all of these other things that were important, knowing who my biological parents were is important, but knowing who my real father is, that's what's the most important.
Psalm 139 is the framework for the entire book. It's throughout the book. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. And I'm sure the Lord led you to discover the meaning of your name. It's actually Darlene Phyllis. And I just love this. I love people who give thought to a person's name and don't just make up something wacky. Darlene means darling or loved one, and Phyllis, to love. You were made to love. And today you own that, Darlene.
Absolutely.
You walk in that.
Absolutely. I'm loved one to love, and like to believe that not just myself, but everybody, really God loves them. And that this is really just one story of how God can restore a person's life. I think we all have our stories.
I have to have you comment on this. A month before your father died, you forgave him. That was huge. How important has forgiveness been in your journey of wholeness?
Choosing to forgive means I can walk in freedom. It means that I allow God to be judge. It means that I put all of the anger and the hatred and the bitterness that I have inside of me in God's hands so that I can move forward.
Thank you for being obedient. God told you to do this, to write it out. at a point when you were drowning in the accumulated rubble of your life. The Lord wants to set us free. The loss of a parent often stirs up those old wounds, and you may be in that place, drowning. Don't stay there. Begin the journey. Let us help you. Our prayer lines are available. We have people who care. They've done the work themselves. They know the freedom that Darlene's talking about, and they want to help you to get there too. And I'll tell you, Darlene will walk with you. Amazing Grace, Abounding Love is a journey that might just be the help you need right now. Thank you so much for joining us. Darlene, thanks for coming from all the tomatoes down there are going to be soon. Glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Brandy's made of a fiber that doesn't fray.
From sharing his voice to finding his voice, legendary musician Randy Travis shares his comeback story.
Felt like the end of the world to me, and it felt like I didn't have anything left to live for.
Rather than being elated or thanking God that I was still alive, that I had another chance, I started picking up more Ambien off the floor that I'd spilled.
At the revelation of Jesus Christ, our trials will result in purpose and honor and glory.
I hadn't done anything except gotten prayed for, and I wanted to know more.
The person that says hope is what keeps me alive can also go, well, wait a minute, if I have hope, there must be joy here too.
And then we see that, wait, there's purpose in my difficulty, there's purpose in my trials.
I tell people that I took my own life and God gave it back to me.
I felt something I'd never felt before, which I now know is the Holy Spirit.
This moment doesn't have to define me. With sorrow, with grief, with anxiety.
Jesus heals, and that there is hope for me, and it doesn't matter what doctors say, and it's just like somebody gives you an injection of life.
Canadians are slowly waking up to the predator claiming lives in plague proportions. In less than 3 years, opioids have killed more than 10,300 Canadians. 93% were unintentional. In this urgent spiritual and public health emergency, we need prayer and action from Canada's faith community. It's time to give a care. Join us on June 18th at Crossroads Studios in Burlington for an evening of prayer and testimonies from opioid overcomers, grieving families, emergency responders, and addiction services. Or make a difference in your community by hosting a live screening of this event at your home, school, or church. Isn't it time you give a care about something bigger? Visit crossroads.ca/giveacare to attend the studio event, host a live screening, and download marketing tools to support your Give a Care movement. Visit crossroads.ca/giveacare or call 1-800-265-3100.
What an important topic that we need to be talking about and praying about, this opioid issue around crisis around our country and across our world as well. So we would love for you to join us at this opioid summit. You can go to crossroads.ca/giveacare, and there are two things that you can do. You can either get a free ticket to be right here in the studio joining Lorna Duick and guests as they just kind of grapple with this topic, talk about this topic, as well as pray about this issue, or you can log on to stream the event in your home or at your church. I just think it's a great topic to even just gather maybe your home church or your small group around, figure out ways that you can help in your community as well as pray for your community.
Right, strategically pray and be educated about it, for
Absolutely.
sure. It probably comes as no surprise that each and every day tons of food goes to waste simply due to excess.
Crossroads Relief and Development have partnered with a unique ministry in Israel to help feed the country's most vulnerable. Leket is a food rescue ministry. By collecting produce that is considered seconds, they're able to get a nutritious meal into the hands of approximately 175,000 people a week.
Let's take a look at this.
For months, Hadassah has been surviving on nothing more than scraps that people would leave outside their homes. Extra bread on fences, or on a good day, the occasional discarded half-eaten meal. Her economic situation is bad.
My life will be a lot more difficult without this place. Without help, I wouldn't be able to survive.
Hadassah lives in Petah Tikva, a city in the central district of Israel, just 10 kilometers east of Tel Aviv. Translated from Hebrew, it means opening of hope. Today, hope comes in the form of fresh oranges, vegetables, beans, and nutritious healthy food. Food provided through a partnership between Crossroads Cares Relief and Development and Leket Israel, a ministry helping alleviate hunger through a food rescue program.
So we've been very blessed by our partnership with evangelical Christians throughout the world. These 3 trucks are from different organizations that we work with. This one's from Netanya.
Leket founder Joseph Gittler says the idea grew from trying to solve a tiny part of one giant problem, bringing high-quality food into the hands of the 1.8 million people who live below the poverty line in Israel, many who are elderly, Holocaust survivors, or children. His solution? Food rescue.
We focus our energies on 2 areas: excess cooked food, which is coming from our #1 partner, the Army, the hotel industry, caterers and corporate cafeterias, and fruits and vegetables, all of which, well, most of the facility you see behind me is utilized for that. Excess fruits and vegetables, ugly fruits and vegetables as they call it.
The sound of fresh fruit being plucked from a farmer's field, food that otherwise would end up rotting on the ground simply because it could not be harvested in time. Now, over 14,000 tons of fruits and vegetables are being saved and placed into the hands of those who need it most.
When you think of how hard that you work every day and that this food will go to somebody who doesn't have food, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's great. I know that I'm working hard and I know who this food is going to. I know that the people who are getting this food, they don't have food at home, and I see that they're, really appreciating the food, and I love to help people, and anyone I can help, I want to.
We're able to provide a meal to those in need for about $1 a meal, which is something absolutely tremendous. We have a waiting list, and that's the most painful thing for me of everything when I think about it. People who we want to help, who need our help, and the food is available, ready to be picked up. We just don't have the resources to do it. We are thankful here in Israel we have enough food to take care of the poor. We just have to figure out the logistics.
Did you know almost 2 million people, or 1 in 5, live below the poverty line in Israel? Many of them are Holocaust survivors, the elderly, and children. Crossroads Cares Relief and Development is committed to alleviating hunger amongst the country's most vulnerable. By partnering with Leket Israel, fresh, healthy meals are delivered to over 175,000 people each week. Would you please consider supporting our efforts so we can continue to bless people in Israel? Please go to crossroads.ca/cares and give today.
One of the best gifts that Jesus came to bring humanity was the gift of forgiveness. I mean, I don't know how this works out in your life. I constantly think of Lady Macbeth, a Shakespearean classic, after having participated in murderous acts, is walking around the hallway, envisioning the blood on her hands and trying to wash it off. And just no matter how hard she tries to wash it off, she can't get it off. And she's just like, I got to get this blood off my hands. This is literally the problem everybody has with blood on your hands. Regardless of how great of a sin that you've committed, all of us are stuck in this pattern, in this sort of karma pattern of like, we'll reap what we sow, and someone needs to rescue us from that. And Jesus came with this amazing word of forgiveness, someone who could do what looked like it couldn't be done. One of the greatest stories that exemplifies this is early on in Jesus' life. In Mark chapter 2, Jesus is having this hilarious encounter, actually. It's quite funny and really powerful, where he's in this house and nobody can get to him because everyone's packed in. Everybody wants to be healed. But there are these mans who have a friend, and the friend is a paralytic, and so they go up on the roof because they know they can't get to Jesus anyway, and they cut a hole in the roof, and they lower their friend down so that Jesus could heal them. And I mean, it's so outrageous. You're just like, really? They cut a hole in the roof? They lower their friend down? I mean, it was incredible. And they lower this guy down. The reason he's on a mat is because he can't walk. He's a paralytic. And he gets in front of Jesus, and then Jesus does the most amazing thing. He looks at the man, and he looks at the friends, and he says to him, your sins are forgiven. And everybody's like, what does that have to do with that? Like, what's going on right now? Because obviously the men didn't lower this lame man, this paralytic, in front of Jesus for the forgiveness of his sins. But Jesus says to the crowd, what's greater? For me to say your sins are forgiven, or for me to say pick up your mat and walk away? I mean, think about that for a second.
We're also amazed by these incredible miracles, and we always want God to do these incredible miracles, but just think about the miracle of getting the blood off your hands, of stopping the reciprocal nature of violence and fear, of getting us a clean slate, of giving us a possibility to start again, of reconciling broken relationships, including the relationship with God. And Jesus says this, so that you'll believe that I'm the Son of God, I'm going to heal this man. So that you'll believe it's possible for me to bring forgiveness into your life, so that you'll recognize that forgiveness is the greatest thing, I'm going to heal this man. And he heals the man. He says, take up your mat and walk. And the man walks out of there, and the friends are excited. But even more than that one miracle is this miracle. The greatest thing, one of the most essential things to the gospel, what Jesus brings to your life, more than physical healing, is spiritual healing. It's forgiveness. Received that gift today.
Well, Maggie, that's another half hour.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. You know what I hear Danielle saying in her segment is that Jesus cuts to the heart of the issue in all of us. There can be a lot of superficial things that we deal with throughout life, and of course we've heard of the hurt and the pain that someone like Darlene came through earlier in the half hour. But Jesus cuts to the heart of the issue, and that's where healing, our identity crisis is solved, and new beginnings can start, right, in our lives. And so if you see that number on the bottom of the screen, feel free to call someone. There's going to be someone on the other end of that line that's willing to listen to you and just hear about wherever you may be in life and whatever you're facing, because there's someone that loves you and cares for you, and his name is Jesus. And he wants to step into your heart and do something new, give you a fresh start, a new beginning. Call that number, 1-866-273-4444, or if you'd rather drop us an email, hit us on prayer@crossroads.ca.
And you know, Mark, as I was thinking about Darlene's story and also what Danielle said, you know, sometimes when we're walking that walk, it means that we have to do hard things. I think about the man who, you know, his friends had to kind of claw their way through a roof. That was a hard thing, but with it came faith. And I think about Darlene's story as well, and doing the hard thing of forgiving her father, who had brutally assaulted her. And with that comes healing. And we know that, you know, you might be going through a hard time and thinking, this is just really hard. I want to continue to settle in my anger and my pain. I've been there, where you're just like, you know what, I'm kind of happy in this stew right now. But I think Mark and I can attest to the fact that there is freedom in letting that go. There's freedom in stepping out of that stew and realizing that God has your best interests at heart, that he wants to set you free today. And I see that in Darlene's story. She has been totally set free by forgiving something that I think all of us would say would be very hard to forgive.
Absolutely. Jesus goes down into that pain with you.
Yeah. So, you know, if you want more information on what we do here on 100 Huntley Street, go to our website, 100huntley.com, for more videos. Thanks for watching today.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a member of the Canadian Council of Christian Charities. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R 4M2.
Deeks Insurance is a proud sponsor of the 100 Huntley Street studio.
Media. This medium. Curated, created, constructed, and colluded to communicate, to influence, to connect, and entertain. With ease, with speed. Over 7 billion people yearning to connect, yearning to be fed, always looking out for whatever's cool, whatever's funny, whatever's trending. The medium is the message, but are we receiving the message? When everything is constantly moving, constantly changing, there is one thing that will not change, one thing that will outlast our lives, one thing that lasts longer than time itself, one thing that knows no bounds, no status, no color. That one thing has a name. As missionaries, we are here to share that one name, Jesus. Using the ease and speed of media to spread light to the lost, to communicate, to influence, to inform, to connect. We are media missionaries.